Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to go over the top PvP teams that are currently meta in the high-end PvPs and are the strongest teams. So first of all we have the Ethereals. This team is the strongest in my opinion team that currently exists. It's really hard to beat. It requires an optimal min-maxing to beat it, like actual counter building, and it's beatable if you do that. But given how RNG the fights are, and given you can't focus a singular team in like World Arena or Foggy, it becomes pretty hard to counter a team to a specific setup you want to run. So the first team that is going to be talked about is the Ethereals with the Venus and Amaterasu combo, as well as Arcane Dorabella and Elisha combo. So both of these two heroes have combo with each other, and then all of them four have a total combo of permanent freeze, permanent ults, scaling from Elisha, and infinite shields from Amaterasu that keep rocking and instantly triggering the Venus shields ultimate spams. So all of these four heroes have insane combo with one another and they're pretty unstoppable together. Now if you take out Amaterasu, which has been a thing, so if you're for example facing off a mirror team of this with 8 Ethereals, the common thing to do is to run 3 Glorians on your side so you can't get CC'd and thus you would win the battle. The most common Glorians run would be Yorm and the Fade hero that is X'd, so Transcendence. So you can run 3 Glorians with 3 Monarchs and have an X that is Transcendent, which would be 3 Glorians, but my Hela is not, neither is Lucifer, it's only Victoria, which is currently taken. So for example, we're just going to use Marina as an example. So this way we have the CC immunity for the first 2 actions, which guarantees you to basically not get freezed by enemies and therefore have an advantage against a mirror team that doesn't have the Glorians. This has been a common thing to do, it's been a common counter. For example, we're not going to use Relic in this case, and it's been good, but the issue is it's not as good because Venus loses her enabler, which is Amaterasu. So it's still beatable, but you can beat this version of the team that is trying to beat your team with using relics such as the Scepter, because Scepter will remove any kind of CC anyways, and it won't matter that you have 3 Glorians or rather you don't have, because the Scepter will get rid of the freeze and therefore you will be able to hit them back anyway. So in this case that doesn't really matter. So then you go back to using the Ethereals, which is the best version like these 4 as I mentioned. And then as a 5th hero, it's usually run something like Lucifer. But this might end up being an overkill in most cases, because these 4 heroes already on their own are too strong. So using Lucifer with it seems a bit of an overkill, and you can't really afford to overkill a team in Foggy or World Arena. So we don't really run Lucifer anymore in here, but we run Hela, because Hela is not as strong as Lucifer, but she's still quite strong to be a perfect filler, especially because she provides the second deviant, similar to what Lucifer does. If you can't afford running Hela, you can run Lilith. Lilith is an amazing filler for this synergy and she will do the job really amazingly. Issue is you lose out on the Monarchs, but you gain on some additional stats from the Lilith. Another hero that people often use is Eudora, but Eudora is not as good as before and she doesn't give you 2 deviants for the initial holy shields, and she's only really good against Behemoth, but even then it's iffy to go. Then you could run Karnak, but then again another issue pops off: no 3 Monarchs, no 2 deviants, and his bind effect lost its value because Lucifer does counter the bind. Therefore, the bind effect has lost its value in the PvP battles. You could run Wukong actually, which is quite strong, especially with the newest combo being run. I ran it, Namut figured it out that Cauldron is actually one of the better relics to go with the Ethereals, because it will double all the shields from the Venus, which means you can tank infinite damage from enemies and you will simply not die. So using Wukong to double the buffs even further, and then benefit from the Cauldron, because you want to use Cauldron in Ethereals to double the buffs, especially if you're running Hela instead of Wukong, she will double the pledge from it, I'm pretty sure. If not, then my bad, but I'm pretty sure it will double the pledge. So Wukong is still a great filler in this team, but he's not as reliable as he was before. So these 4 heroes are all you need for the high-end PvP Ethereals, and then the 5th hero, as I mentioned, can be any of these 3 heroes pretty much. Just fit as you can and as you can afford to. As for the relics are a very important thing in these PvP matchups. So a lot of people run Sarcophagus, which is great. This relic is amazing. It increases the damage of Ethereals by a lot, but you don't need it. The Ethereals don't need damage. You have so much ultimate spams, you won't really need damage. What you need is the sustain from it. So you need sustain relics. The sustain relics, currently best PvP relic in the game, is the Scepter. The Scepter will remove enemies' Lucifer debuffs, it will remove Hela's seal, it will remove any kind of CC. So this relic right here is your best friend. And you don't want to proc it instantly in most cases, because it will just do nothing, it will cleanse nothing. So if you don't proc it instantly and enemy takes actions, they will freeze your heroes, and then you will proc this relic and actually cleanse the freeze. So this relic is better at lower stars, but there are cases where you want to trigger it instantly, and that's if you're trying to burst down enemy Lucifer teams. So if you want to burst down enemy Lucifer teams, you would end up using something like Sarcophagus and then into this relic. So you can actually trigger these 2 instantly and then have a remaining energy to trigger another relic, which you can pretty much run anything. Most people use the planar gate, but I personally love this crown new relic. It's amazing. So I would run something like this. So this is only if you're trying to take down enemy Lucifer, you are the attacker, you have the advantage. So you cleanse the enemy Lucifer stat steal, so your heroes deal damage before their turn takes order, and you basically just burn down the enemy Lucifer. That's the case where you want to proc the Scepter instantly, but most of the times you will not want to. So the middle slot relic, in most cases people use to run Kusanagi, but Kusanagi is not as good as before, because as I said, you need sustain, you need utility, you don't need damage. So Scepter, or rather the Vanquisher, is yet another amazing relic that purifies the debuffs and transfers them to enemy teams, and you can purify 5 debuffs from 5 heroes, so 25 total debuffs, debuffed and transferred, prioritizing strong control effects such as stun and freeze. So if you don't have Scepter, Vanquisher is still amazing thing to run, so you can also run Vanquisher instead of Scepter. You don't want to use both, it's a complete waste, so don't do that. Another relic you could run is, as I said, Gourd, so you can swap and basically double all the buffs from Venus. And then the third relic I usually love is the Call of the Urgency, because it provides insane amounts of shields, it doubles the shield received, so it has insane amounts of combos with Venus and Amaterasu, and it's really amazing, especially the higher stars. And then lastly, you can run, as I said, the new relic, Crown of Purity. It's amazing. If you don't have it, if you don't want to run it, you should run the planar gate personally. And as for any other relics, I don't recommend the reset relics. Maybe you can run the Cauldron, but that would require you to put it on the slot 2 to trigger it instantly. So yeah, that was the top number 1 PvP team in the current state of the game. As I said, these 4 heroes are pretty much the entire meta. As I said, you can also remove Amaterasu to get your Glorians. It's completely fine to do that. You don't have to worry about running just pure Ethereals. It's not wrong to run 3 Glorians for the CC immunity, but in that case, make sure to adjust the relics accordingly. You don't want to have Planar Gate in the position 3 and as well as Scepter, so it's so much CC negation that you won't ever need. It's pretty much a waste of relics. So in World Arena and mostly Foggy, you're trying to min-max as much value as possible out of units and the relics, because having 3 strong 5-man lineups is all that matters, especially in the last few battles, and especially in the World Arena where you have to make a lot of strong lineups. So making them as minimal investment as possible and as strong as possible at the same time is the key to winning. So that was Ethereals, currently the strongest version and probably Seraphina might have a place in Ethereals against them pretty much, because she does have the control, or rather the ignore shields to all allies effect, so she could be a key to winning Amaterasu Venus combo Ethereals, but I have yet to test that out. But so far that's the strongest team that I have shown. Now the second strongest lineup in my opinion is the Phantom Avengers. So this is the perfect lineup for me personally, these 4 heroes. Primordial Arcdina is a filler, but she makes this team really strong because she converts the healing into additional attack, which then further enhances Magatama. It's pretty strong scaling for the Avenger Phantoms that they didn't really have before. The 5th hero is usually Lucifer or Hela, depending on what you have available, but it's always either of the two. I don't suggest running any other hero in here. This team won't be as good as it is. You can run Janna, but as I said, it won't be as good without. So yeah, you have to run Lucifer or Hela for this team to be able to scale up. I personally love Lucifer in it, but it's beatable by Ethereals, that's the issue. But you can also strike back. So if enemy doesn't run the Gord, it won't be really easy to beat it, but if they do run Gord, this team can fall off really easily. And the Primordial Arcdina does have to be 10 stars for this team to work, in my opinion. So it's quite an expensive team, but it's a really good one, the second strongest one in my opinion. The relics, you always want to run these. Sometimes you want to run the lens in here instead of the chest, but that's pretty optional. And in here you can also run Hand of Tyr, but that's also optional. The key part is just to proc Magatama. If you don't proc Magatama, you are not going to receive the last words effect, which means your heroes will be dying for no reason and you are not getting any value out of it. Now, if this team had X Lucifer, this would be 7 Avengers, so it would be far stronger than it is now. Unfortunately, I didn't get Lucifer to Transcendence, so I didn't really test this team with 7 Avengers, but I reckon it should match the power of the 7 or rather the 8 Ethereals that I run. So I do believe that both of these teams are on the same level. It just depends on who's managing the relics. If you can properly manage the relics of the Ethereals, and if you're the attacker, you can also use chest against this team. So if you use chest as an Ethereal attacker against Avengers, they won't be able to proc their Magatama, and then they're pretty much ruined for the entire battle. And if you do that, then you pretty much win this battle, because if Avengers don't get to proc Magatama, they're just doomed to fail. So that's another thing with Ethereals. If they're attackers, they have a big advantage over the one that is defending. It's a lot harder to play as a defender right now than it is as an attacker. So apart from that, if you want to run other Avengers, I don't suggest. You have to run Althea and Yingzheng, because they're the only 2 Celestials right now. They're pretty much viable, and they're Phantoms. Some people used to run Victoria in here, but I don't think Victoria fits here anymore. It's either Hela or Lucifer. Victoria is made for Dooms, and only Dooms in my opinion right now. And yeah, that's the other team I wanted to talk about. So the Doom Monarchs, that are currently the 3rd strongest team, or maybe 4th, depending on the matchups and depending on how the RNG of the battle goes. So this team, it's only this team. It's only these 5 heroes. There's not changing. There's no better heroes. You can use Halissa if your Victoria is busy in like Avengers or something. Halissa is a solid filler, but then you lose out on the 2 Celestials. So maybe Ayushta could be replaceable, but then again, I don't think so. It's only these 5 heroes that are pretty much making the Dooms viable and quite strong. As for the relics, I'm using the Lance into the Maw into the Crimson Chalice. The reason why I don't run any middle slot relic is because I don't consider them to be any good. For example, Tempest Hammer is not needed. You have Babylon for the stuns. The HP increase and Sanctuary Blessing triggering chance is solid, but then again, why? Because Maw is just simply better. Call of the Urgency is okay relic if you want to use it. It's not bad. Cauldron is not good in this team, and the Doom Stun relic is good because of the damage it does, but the issue is, as I said, you have Babylon for the stuns. So I simply just take out the Maw and run Maw, because Maw also applies stuns, does insane damage, and is really easy procced by the Babylon herself. So this is the relic setup that I suggest everyone to run, but of course if you have less BBZ on, for example, like Phantoms, you can just replace the middle slot relic and instead use the sanctuary shields or whatever you want and whatever you have viable. But this is the team that I believe is the best for the Dooms. I don't think you can swap around some heroes. Obviously, if you're in the World Arena, you would have to, because you're trying to make as many strong teams as possible. So maybe you would run Ayushta on team that is not here, and instead you would run Halisane here, which is completely fine. If your Ayushta is busy somewhere else, that's also optional. But apart from that, I don't think you should be swapping any other heroes. And then lastly, we have the Avenger Monarchs, which I believe have fallen off because of so many Aphrodite counters and play arounds right now. She's not as reliable as she was. Isis is still great, she tanks a lot. Albert with legendary runes is a really solid filler and a really good hero. Issue is Mavis is just trash these days. I don't really consider Mavis to be that good as she was in the past, and I'm not running her at all in the past few seasons, so she's been benched for me. And in this team you can run a lot of different versions, but it does require you to use heroes outside of this team. For example, Leviathan is pretty good in here. Primordial Argdina is also pretty good in here. If you don't want Albert, you can run someone like Yorm instead. She buffs up the ultimate spammers quite a lot. So 4 Avengers is the sweet spot. You want 4 Avengers because it's almost a guaranteed revive, whereas 3 Avengers is still a 2 RNG, but 80% chance is really good for the revivals. Especially if Isis or Afro get the Transcendence scores passive next season, and you could X them, then this team should be even better. But as I said, these two are the main Avengers you will run, and any others are just fillers. I'm not sure if this team or the team 3 are better. Between them, they share the same place, but Ethereals are definitely the number 1, and the Phantom Avengers are definitely number 2. So it just depends on what you can build and what you can play around, but that's my suggestion for now. These are the teams that are top and that have been pretty much dominant in the both Foggy and the World Arena. So thank you for watching, and hopefully you have learned something new, and see you in the next one.